I wanted today's video to be about thru hiking on a budget. To join in on the discussion, I invited my friend Rascal to the channel. I met Rascal in 2019 as we were both thru hiking the Appalachian Trail. Since then, she has thru hiked the Long Trail, helped me along the Mountains to Sea Trail, and completed a considerable amount of the John Muir Trail until we were unfortunately kicked off due to fire closure. A dirtbag to the core, Rascal has been able to fine-tune her thru hiking money-saving techniques, and I'm positive anyone can benefit from her tips and tricks. So please welcome to the channel, Rascal. I've always appreciated you, Rascal, for how well you saved money during thru hikes, and I thought it would be great to talk to you today and educate some other people with your top tips on how to thru hike on a budget, because you're so good at it.
Well, when you're broke, you have to be good at it.
I watched a couple of these videos on YouTube from people, and I think something that they left out was how you save money in terms of gearing up before you actually get on trail. So do you have any tips on how to save money when it comes to gearing up, or how to buy budget gear?
Before my first big thru hike, I didn't have pretty much anything. I think the only thing I went in to my first thru hike, which was the AT with, was my sleeping bag. Other than that, I had to buy everything. Knowing yourself and knowing what you need to be comfortable is kind of big, because for me, there's a lot of things that I can sacrifice to be comfortable, I guess, and to save money was a big thing. And to save weight was also another big thing for me going into it. And so I realized that I could go without an inflatable sleeping pad. So I had a foam pad the entire time, which saved a lot of money because mine was $25 versus, 140. Exploring your options definitely further out from when you're going to leave for the trail is a huge benefit. You have time where the deals are, where the sales are, if there's thrift stores around, gear shops. A lot of gear shops now are doing consignment, so you can go in and buy secondhand gear, which sometimes you can get a really good deal for really good stuff.
What is the average amount of money a thru hiker spends on a long distance hike like the Appalachian Trail, Continental Divide, Pacific Crest Trail? And how much did you spend on your thru hike?
For the big three, I think they're each pretty different. The Appalachian Trail, I think it's really easy to accidentally spend a lot of money because there's so many towns. I think the Pacific Crest Trail is expensive because it's California mostly. I know in the AT, they say folks average between $5,000 to $9,000. For me, it was between $4,000 and $5,000. So wow. I would say below the average.
I think they say it's $2 a mile is the average for a thru hiker. I even think that's an outdated number, nearly $4,400 for the Appalachian Trail, which I think is outdated by now because prices are going up. Money or hostel stays are increasing and shuttle rides are increasing because the gas prices are increasing. So I think that's an outdated number. I would say it's honestly closer to 5,000 is the average for, especially with travel, getting back to and from the trail, especially more if you're international.
And then there's the time you spend before and after the trail, before trail when you quit your job and have those last couple weeks to prep. And then after the trail, if you're going back or trying to figure out a new job, you got to factor in all those expenses. If you have to pay rent while you're gone or pay car insurance, it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, that brings me into another question that I had. How do you account for non-hiking expenses?
I have older friends who have to sublet either their house or whatever, and maybe they rent out their car for the time being while they're gone, defer their student loans, things like that. It's a huge sacrifice.
To just reiterate your points, you can do things to cut down on those non-hiking expenses, like the mortgage. You can rent out. I've seen people, they rent out their house and they have somebody sublet it, like you said, if there's a rental situation, canceling car insurance and just parking your car in a friend or family's driveway. You could sell your car. At that point, you just have to be completely sure that you're going to complete this thru hike, because at that point you're literally giving up everything. In your experience, what is the biggest expense while thru hiking?
I would say food probably, and the resupplies becomes the biggest expense, at least from my experience. It depends though what kind of hiker you are. If you're a hiker who every time you get into town, you have to stay in a hotel, you have to eat out every single meal, you got to buy that six pack, that's up. So that could be your biggest expense. But for me, it's always the resupplies because you have to like plan out your food, and obviously buying from a grocery store, you can only buy in certain quantities and you only need so much when you're going out. You don't want to take too little or too much. And so it's like a huge mess of trying to figure out the best budget options, but it's also trying to figure out what's going to make you the happiest out there.
Mm-hmm.
Want to eat as healthy as possible and have the most calories as possible. And so I would say that's probably the biggest expense, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. The food was pretty much the biggest expense for me and Jonathan as well. With the restocks, how did you save money at the grocery stores or like these little gas stations that you would restock at?
A lot of it was hiking into town with people and buying and sharing. You can eat super cheap where you just eat ramen and tuna and the Cliff Bars or whatever, but that gets old pretty darn fast. There's also hiker boxes are a big one. You want to hit those, which are boxes from hostels or hotels or businesses in a huge hiker populated town that people toss in leftovers, extras, things they don't want. And then I would always check those before I go to a grocery store. That way I'm like, okay, well, I already have this and this and take care of. I can just now buy this and this.
Me and Jonathan also did off-brand. Like we never got like the name brand stuff unless it was like oatmeal. Like if, like you said, if it's gonna make you happy, then might as well get the thing that's gonna make you happy. Like the oatmeal for me, like the name brand, like Quaker Oats was like my thing. Like I wanted that one. Everything else I could deal with like
Yeah.
off-brand.
There's the argument that like mailing ahead boxes is less expensive, and I think in certain times it is, but shipping costs are so expensive these days that you spend an extra $15-20 on your resupply shipping it ahead. So unless you're getting to a certain town or place that there really is no options, I would say try and just buy in town, buy when you get there, and that way like what you like at that time instead of buying stuff 2 months prior to your hike, mailing it all ahead, and then getting to a resupply and being like, cool, so I can't eat another Pop-Tart ever again in my life. All of them are going in the trash.
I know you had a couple of tricks out there on the trail to save money, and there's a couple top ones that I really appreciated. I know what they are, but for those that don't know, what are like your top tricks, top tips for through hiking on a budget?
Some of my favorite ones are Neros. Always taking a Nero into town is one of my favorite things, where you maybe hike just a little bit in the morning into a town and you pick up your resupply, maybe you find a shower, do laundry, but then you hike out that same day and camp back out on trail. That's going to save you a lot of money in terms of you're not staying at a hostel or a hotel, so you're not paying for that. You're not eating out or partying with everyone, which is fun, but you can't do it every single town or you will run out of money really quick. And then the other big one is if you are staying in a hostel, I always ask if they do work for stays. And it's honestly so easy. Sometimes literally all I had to do was like wash the dishes.
Yeah.
And I would either get like, oh, you don't have to pay for your laundry for this stay, or oh, you get the whole night free if you serve everyone dinner and wash up after everyone. And so it's super easy things, household chores that keep you busy anyway.
Another thing you could do is a lot of hostels have like a camping option or like a tenting option. Though it is money and you are paying to camp, you could still do Nero. But if you don't want to, you could always do camping. And I think it was like $10 there.
And I mean, usually with that, you still get access to the shower and to laundry, which is the biggest like mood booster when you get into town, is like being clean and then like wearing clean clothes.
With that too is I would save like your money for a rainy day.
Yeah.
That's a good
Literally.
point. Because you're not going to always want a tent outside, especially in the rain. But
Yeah.
you're saving your money for like there's going to be like a storm coming and there's 3 days of continuous rain and thunder and there's maybe a tornado and you're like, oh, wait, I kind of don't want to be on trail and I want to sleep in a hostel and
Yeah.
not tent next to a hostel. Like if you can stay outside, stay outside. So in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake somebody can make when it comes to hiking on a budget?
Partying too much. Like a party here and there is great and amazing. And I love drinking with all of my friends. But there comes a time when you have to realize that, like, you know what? It might be a little too much. And that's where all my money's going every time you get into town.
I think another mistake that people, when they're hiking, truly hiking on a budget, I think a mistake is to not do an experience on the trail because it costs too much. And so that's when it comes to like saving your money for these experiences that you wouldn't get if you weren't through hiking the trail. So I
Right.
mean, like, going somewhere special or camping somewhere special that might cost a little money, or even like going to New York City. I know we were able to do that, and that was a special experience to do with all of our friends.
Yeah.
And visiting a new city together was really cool.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, they can get so strict with their budget and just like so hyper focused on like, completing the trail is great, but that's when it comes to like picking and choosing what you want to do on your adventure. So if you were to, like I said, instead of sleeping in the hostel, there you go. That's like $25 right there that you can be saving for an experience on the trail.
And I think going into a hike too, you don't realize how much you're going to miss it after it's over. And so that's a super great point to like point out to people, is like it's all about the journey and not the destination. And it's so true, because those little moments inside of the journey is the things that I always reflect on, and I wouldn't have had those if I hadn't saved up enough.
We're talking about like spending a lot of money on trail. Do you know of any ways that you can make money on trail?
You could be if you find places that will let you blog or vlog. Like I work for an outdoor company right now, and they pay folks to write blogs.
Going off that, me and Jonathan I think we wrote 4 blogs for our outdoor company we worked with before we went on a thru hike, and we made, each one paid $250, so that helped out a lot. I mean, we wouldn't have finished if we hadn't wrote those blogs. So we wrote those, that helped out a lot. And also, I wasn't making money from YouTube on trail, but I know several people that do, like Nav, when she was on trail. I do make money now off YouTube, and I could see how that would be helpful on trail. But I know Nav, she was making, I think, $100 a month, but that comes with getting 1,000 subscribers, and then you can start monetizing. So a lot of people, a benefit of YouTube is, making money, but you do have to work at it for a couple months and try to get enough subscribers before you get on trail. And that helps out a lot. Like if you can become a vlogger, and if that's something you enjoy doing and sharing your experience, I think that is a great way to make money on trail. But blogging too, I mean, writing on trail was very therapeutic for me. I enjoyed doing that, so that's a great way if you don't like the cameras and you don't like vlogging.
And I'm sure like people would pay for like photographs too. Like I know some of the stuff that you took from our trip on the JMT, like people would probably pay for those prints. They're really good. And so just like finding little creative ways.
Well, thank you so much, Rascal, for these helpful tips and tricks. Is there anything else you want to say about hiking on a budget before we let you go?
No matter what your budget is, you can probably make it work, and definitely worth it to try. Never been, nor probably ever will be rich in money, but because I sacrifice, I am able to be rich in experience, which is the best thing ever.
Wow, thank you. That was really beautiful. That was a very poetic ending to this video.
Y'all catch me on the PCT this year.
Oh yeah, give us your social medias.
Yeah, follow me, MeganJoy94 is my Instagram.
Y'all go follow her. She's got some great adventures. All right, Rascal. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Candy. Bye.
Bye.